Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about the double black eye and running sore for the Supreme Court that is Clarence Thomas's, continuing stream of revelations. Okay, so the last week has brought just really indefensible, kind of repugnant revelations about huge amounts of money that Thomas and his wife have taken, or in the form of vacation. Well, no, but not just vacations, but ridiculously lavish vacations, the equivalent of literally double his annual salary as a Supreme Court justice, from a very noted conservative activist who's also helped employ Ginny, his wife, without being disclosed. So, I don't see anyone else on the Supreme Court accepting these kinds of sinecure isn't even the word, just utterly lavish, outlays. Might as well, be dropping, big bags of cash in a way, but certainly no one who would then not report it. And Thomas's explanation is so threadbare. Some unspecified persons, maybe Antonin Scalia if he's pushed to it, but will he be pushed to it? I'll get to that later. Advised him it was okay. Why is it okay? Because there's a personal hospitality exception, meaning you stay over, somebody's house for the night who's a buddy. You don't have to report it on your financial disclosure form. Not you go on a yacht to, these are like out of movies, these trips. So accepting it in the first place, dicey. Not reporting it, really indefensible. Now we also learn that the same guy buys out Thomas and his brother and someone else, and purchases the house that Thomas's mom is living in. And I think it's a little unclear, but still living in it to this day, and then hugely improves it, and it improves the whole block and basically makes it totally nice for her, really improves her situation. This guy, the rich guy, Harlan Crow, says, oh, it was just, in preparation for a historical museum for Thomas. But that's also doesn't fly, because he purchases neighboring lots, spiffs up the whole neighborhood, etc. Seems clearly another solid and expensive one for Thomas to make his mom much more comfortable. Again, not reported. Now, today we have the latest, which is Thomas continuing to report income from a company that's defunct. That strikes me as, it might not be so bad. That might just be a failure to register a kind of corporate change. But at this point, everything just stinks to high heaven. And I've been a little more reticent about jumping all over some of the earlier revelations, because they all had a lot to do with Ginny Thomas. And, I think as a general matter, it's, you shouldn't have to answer for your wife's work. But even that got to have a pretty bad stench when it was so caught up in the Trump stuff and the election. And that seemed to me to be a recusal situation. But the whole thing now, and especially these trips, this is just, for one, it's a historical taint on Thomas. He entered the court with after the bruising confirmation battle, where many thought he committed perjury, with a real taint. And I think this will now stay with him. For Thomas acolytes, and there are some out there. It really, the narrative they'd been trying to sell had been Thomas's increasing influence in the court and the like. This now blows this away. I think it's Thomas, the serial ethical problem, but also his whole approach. It's of a piece. I'm always reminded when these things come up of what he said when he was confirmed, which is, the liberals made me miserable for 43 years, and I'm going to make them miserable for 43 years. Can you imagine a justice of the Supreme Court? What sort of smoldering anger and poor and immaturity this, he brought to the job, and we still have 10 years or so to go. But his general refusal to be responsive in connection with these really bad revelations, the latest ones certainly really bad, has to be, for one, something, John Roberts wants to tear his hair out. It's the sad fact and background, and let me just make this clear. Their powers over him are very limited. The Supreme Court has the justices are police themselves. I mean, the last person in the world, the two last people in the world who should be saying whether these $500,000 vacations constitute personal hospitality are Harlan Crow and Clarence Thomas. Yet that is effectively the point, and that's effectively the case. And people say, well, that shows Roberts is weak. It doesn't show Roberts. Roberts doesn't really have the power to roll Thomas on something like this. I'm sure if he did, he would use it. This is just a huge and unnecessary eyesore for the court. And of course, in tandem with all the, wretched opinions, but I digress. But so it's really a vivid and significant contributor to the court's very poor public standing now. It's something you can't imagine others are doing. And again, the whole kind of sort of smoldering arrogance of just not saying anything. And, now he says, I will follow it going forward or whatever on, some of the revelations where it's clear he didn't do it right. But it's really ugly. It's really bad for the court. It's really, I think, now one of the taglines in Thomas's obituary. And, I think it's not out of the question. There are people in the Senate and the House that are really revved up. You could see efforts to impeach Thomas over things like this. Abe Fortas, who people compare the Thomas situation with, left the court for conduct that seems a lot less than they left it voluntarily, but you could not convicted, but you could see him having the dubious distinction, the humiliating distinction of being the first Supreme Court justice who's impeached. And it's just I'm hesitating for a second in case way back when it happened, but I don't think so. But in any event, just a really sort of ignominious distinction it would be. And I just think that now the combination of some of the things that are coming out, and never did, by the way, we tip of the hat to ProPublica for finding out about this Harlan Crow travel, notwithstanding Thomas trying to keep it secret, Harlan Crow trying to keep it secret. You wonder if there are other shoes left to drop, and you just wonder about the mindset of a justice of the United States Supreme Court who thinks, yeah, this is fine. I can do this, and screw everybody. And again, what was this initial advice? And did he go to Scalia, whoever, and say, by the way, the trips I'm talking about, they're like lifestyles of the rich and famous millionaire trips. Anyway, it's all one more. This is a really bad sort of A, self-inflicted wound on the court, but B, by a single justice. The other thing that can happen, it's a little unclear, but let's say 7 members of the court or whatever say, okay, we have to we have to be subject now to outside ethics judgment, the same as lower court federal judges are. And maybe that will be the result, though it's an uncertain landscape if, say, 7 of them go for it. Likewise, you can see Congress passing a statute that says you must be subject to the codes, but then you can see the court striking it down as unconstitutional. It's a friggin' mess, and it would all be fine if all the justices acted reasonably and disclosed things they should. And here we have at least one, and as far as we know, only one, who's doing anything but. So there you have it, a bad state of affairs with no clear remedy. We'll see if there are other shoes left to drop, and if the court itself tries to police itself, and if not, if there's any mention of the big I word, impeachment. Okay, so until then, we're still in our 43-year period, so talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.